Going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 132 here at the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today I welcome back another part 2 episode guest. She was the guest on episode 18, Mariah J. She's a Dayton, Ohio native, singer, songwriter, artist. We recapped the last couple years since the last time we talked. We focused primarily on her new project called Unfolding. She gave the details on the different collaborators she had for the project, how the album artwork came together, and really just a full story and the emotion that went into the project. Having just, kind of sat down with herself over the last few years and kind of reevaluated things, kind of got through some tough times, and she channeled a lot of that into the music, and I think that's very, impressive and important to do sometimes as an artist. You got to give fans the real emotion sometimes. We also talked about, she's been doing a lot of other things. She's trying to get into producing her own shows and performing in different cities, and I think that's going to be an incredible opportunity for her as well. And overall, it was just kind of a nice, little catch-up conversation that we had. We haven't really done that since the first time we spoke on this podcast to begin with. So, from another fellow Ohio artist, I'm glad to see that she is doing her thing still and really just continuing to elevate and grow her brand and, her artistry, and gain a new audience and gain new fans. And I'm looking forward to connecting with her again very soon. And without further ado, let's get into this episode. All right, welcome everyone to episode 132 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series, and today we have another part 2 episode for you. This guest is returning all the way from episode 18, Dayton, Ohio's own. Mariah J is here once again. How are you?
I'm good. I didn't know it was episode 18.
I had to look it up.
132?
Yep.
Shout out to you, first of all, for being consistent.
I try. And it's crazy because I actually had to look it up today because I knew it was 2020. I knew it was probably like the summer of 2020. And I was thinking like maybe it's like 13 or 14, but it's 18. I'm like, that's so long ago still. But yeah, I'm definitely happy, like I said, to have you back on the show today. And for those that, they might not have heard that first episode the first time around, kind of just give a reintroduction about, who you are, what you do, how long have you been making music, kind of just touch on the basics that we did the first time around for those that might not know you and what you do.
Sure. I'm Mariah J. I'm a singer, songwriter, born and raised from Dayton, Ohio. And I think from what I can remember from our last interview, I was really just touching on, I think, my EP, because it had just came out in 2019 in December. And I think it was during the summer where I got to share with you more about just some of my process as far as writing it, what it was about. And I think at that time too, I was a full-time artist. I wasn't doing anything else but music at the time. So that was definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah, and it's crazy because that was all during the pandemic as well. And obviously at that time the pandemic was still kind of a thing going on, and especially up here in Ohio, there was still a lot of restrictions and things like that. A lot of people couldn't do many things. So what have you, I guess the question would be, what has kind of changed the most since that time as far as maybe your day-to-day life or your career as you're approaching it now?
So since then I've recorded and wrote another project, which is my debut album, Unfolding. And since then I've performed a lot. I did my first concert last year at the Levitt Pavilion, downtown Dayton. And I shared the space with another local artist from Dayton, Ohio. His name is K. Carter, and he is a local rapper. He does hip-hop. So that was probably the biggest highlight probably within the last 2 years. But just I've been doing hella more shows and performing more and really tapping into my songwriting. People have reached out from different platforms for me to songwrite. I ended up creating this jingle for someone's podcast. So just like really tapping into like my songwriter bag and really just building my confidence for real as a performing artist. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to since then. I feel like there's so much more, but the concert and just like tapping into songwriting, definitely have.
And I definitely want to get into some more, especially the new project. I want to get into that in a little bit. But obviously, congrats on the live shows and everything, because like we said, at that time, that wasn't going on. You know what I mean? People were doing just the Instagram live shows, trying to get creative, trying to like keep an audience or grow their audience from their home. Now it's like a lot of those gigs and things like that are returning now or have officially returned. So it's good to see that that's the case for you as well. And I hope you continue to get those opportunities moving forward as well. And eventually, I gotta get either to Dayton or elsewhere. I'm gonna eventually get to one of the shows. Got to make that happen, for sure in the future. I do want to know, what. Let's just say the last 2 years again. What has been really keeping you inspired as far as, let's say, your songwriting goes, because that's obviously something that you have to go live a little bit of life, come back, put that into your songs. So like, what is keeping you inspired currently to make the last album you just made, or maybe something that you're currently working on?
Healing, definitely. I would say even just like during the pandemic, I was still creating. I wouldn't even say I wrote my album during the pandemic. I was like really pouring all of my energy into myself. So healing is my latest album is a result of me investing in myself. That's kind of like how I would like frame it. Got connected to someone who is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Keisha, and she really like took me under her wing, and she really helped me kind of like put myself first again. So that was like the main inspiration. And yeah, just I quit running from a lot of stuff too. Like I just quit running from myself. I quit running from my emotions. And I've always been someone who, tries their best to feel their feelings, even though I'm not always like super successful. So sometimes I will kind of just like, try to like suppress it through different things. And so I stopped doing that. And I can't say that I'm perfect in that, but I'm a lot more aware.
Yeah.
So this just like heightened awareness is definitely like inspiring a lot of what you hear on Unfolding, and reconnecting to myself, reconnecting to God, and reconnecting to my family and the people who mean the most to me. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's all important stuff, because like you said, I think that's almost like an artist mentality as well sometimes, where we kind of just don't feel like we either don't feel like we can talk to someone, or we just feel like there's a lot going on that no one's going to understand, so we can't really portray that to anyone, and we kind of just keep it all inside, like you said. But I definitely think that when you do address it, you almost come like out of this veil onto the other side in a way, because you have to kind of put yourself through that uncomfortable phase to get to a place where it's like, I can move forward now, or at least live with like what you deal with on the day to day. And I think that's definitely something that you're kind of describing here, is like you just kind of had to sit down, and obviously, like you said, you had support there. You had someone that was there to kind of guide you along the way. So that's always great as well. And that's, something that's commendable. So again, congrats on that, and I'm glad that you were able to also take that and make an amazing project. So I do want to get into Unfolding as well. I forget what song. I was trying to think of the song that I put in the playlist recently from Unfolding. I'd have to go back and look. But I was just a fan of the project overall, the sequencing, the way it all came together. I could tell that there was a real message there. So kind of just break down, like who did you collaborate with? How long did the process take overall? And just kind of give people some stories about, what went into the project and putting it all together.
Yeah. So I'll start with the collaborators, the producers that I worked with for the album. I think it was like 5 of them. One is Michael Breslin. He's also from Dayton, Ohio. Um, he's amazing, first of all, and I just love his spirit and his heart. So I hope he hears this, and just really grateful for finding a producer that I felt like I was in like alignment with. So yeah, Michael Breslin. I worked with another good friend of mine. His name is Vintage Vibes. He's based out in St. Louis. He's also a saxophone player as well, and I had him come in to Dayton for my listening party. So shout out to Vintage Vibes as well. I worked with his name is Slick, and he's based in, I don't want to mess up the name, I think it's Abuja, Nigeria. So that was a very unique experience because I actually came across his production on YouTube. And then I reached out and I was like, hey, I really like this beat. I was wondering, can I have it, basically? And yeah, he sent it to me. And so just really grateful for his yes in that. I also worked with another local producer. His name is E Black made the track. Actually, no, his producer name is E Black. His Instagram handle is E Black made the track. I just think it's so catchy. But another great producer, his is more of a R&B vibe. Also the same with the last producer. His name is Sun Swift. And I ended up coming across his production when I was in Atlanta and I was doing some songwriting for an artist down there, and came across his production, fell in love with it, reached out and was like, hey, I definitely want to like get this beat. So those are the collaborators for the project. I forget the other question that you had asked me.
It was basically just...
you said get into the story.
Yeah, it was basically just kind of the story surrounding like the theme and everything, which you kind of touched on before, but if there was anything else as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting because when I was like writing the songs, I wasn't like trying to tell a specific story. I was just expressing myself. And it kind of just like created itself as far as like the story that it was going through. And once I like sat and listened to like all the songs, then I became a lot more intentional about the sequencing and from start to finish. Like, okay, I think that it needs to open this way, and end, this way. And so I open with a very like simple intro. I actually produced it myself. But basically, if you listen to it, I repeat, these same lines three different lines three times. And that was me kind of giving the listener just like this like foreshadow of what's to come throughout the entire album. So, I start with my family. I start with what it means to go through very like uncomfortable experiences and situations and letting it go. And then I get into like a lot of like my love life. And these are real stories, by the way. And so I get into my love life, and then, I do my best to honor my inner child with the last track, and leaving more on a more confident and high note, versus, a lot of like the pain and the heartbreak and, those types of situations from past like relationships, that's like in the middle of the album. So that's kind of like the timeline and the story of the album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I also love the artwork as well, where it's kind of like the pages unfolding and like you're like in the middle. It's like the picture of you on there as well. Who did the artwork, by the way?
Shout out to Juice. Naija Simon actually got me connected to Juice. I cannot remember where he's from, but I know he's in Houston, Texas right now. So I sent him like a couple tracks on the album, gave him a little like synopsis of just like what I wanted the album cover to depict. And yeah, like what he had sent back, I mean, it was, I even also like asked that he kind of like dig deep within himself and find some meaning within the title Unfolding. What does that mean for your life to unfold? What does that mean for you? To kind of like put himself in that place, to see what he felt led to create, and he came back with fire. Like some super hot fire. So I'm super grateful for Juice, for sure.
And it's crazy because I think you also posted the original photo of yourself at one point too, and I went back and like compared it, and I was like, that's so cool. He took that photo and kind of just like did it around this background and had the pages kind of make up the whole thing on the red background. I thought that was amazing. And it's cool because like a lot of people kind of overlook the visual side of the music as well. And like, it's just as important sometimes as the music, because you're like, you want to see that and kind of get the story through the visuals as well. I don't know, did you do any like music videos or like any type of other like video or visual art for the project? I don't know if I saw anything, but if you did,
No, not yet. Not yet.
Were you thinking about something?
You said what?
Were you thinking about doing something? You got something up your sleeve?
Oh, yeah. For sure. Like, I'm still in, like, ideation phase on videos. Yeah, because I just want them to be, like, a very specific way, and I'm kind of just, like, taking my time with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely going to be creating some videos, for the album, for sure.
Definitely.
Oh, and I also want to shout out the photographer of the original photo that Juice used to make the cover art. Her name is Lovia. She goes by Thank Love Later Photography. So shout out to her because she's been rocking with me for some time now. She actually took the photo that's the cover art for my EP as well.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
shout out to Lovia.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And it's great to hear, even the producers as well and all the people involved that you had, your team kind of with you there to work your way through this project and get it out and kind of, oversee the vision of what you wanted to do as well. So that's super awesome. I know that you had mentioned, you were doing some other different things like songwriting. You did something for a podcast, you said. So is there one like specific niche you're trying to lean into as far as like you're focusing more on yourself as an artist? You're focusing more on songwriting for others. Is there kind of just one that you're kind of leaning more towards at the moment, or you're just trying to put as equal amount of energy into all these things at once, you think?
I think, well, for one, I think I'm definitely still trying to like find myself in that. Even just when it comes to the type of music I create, the genre that I'm in. But I definitely am wanting to just focus more on myself as an artist versus songwriting for other artists. I remember someone reaching out to me actually recently, like this year, wanting me to kind of like be a part of a bigger team and songwriting for another artist. And I realized I didn't really like it so much because I'm like, dang, I know that I'm talented in songwriting, but I also want all these songs for myself. And I'm like, I hope that doesn't sound selfish, but like, I just also have to be honest with myself too. Like, like what really fulfills me, what really feels like, my destiny is really creating these songs for Mariah and performing them myself. I would say that I'm leaning more towards, singing and songwriting for myself.
It's another struggle of being a creative, though. You kind of want to like keep them all for yourself. You know what I mean? You don't want to give it out there sometimes, but it's good to kind of spread the opportunity as well. So I definitely feel what you're saying on that one, 100%. So obviously, there's a couple months left in the year. By the time this episode's out, it's going to be like mid-December. So I want to kind of ask you, to look back on this whole year, 2022. Do you think that overall you met a lot of the goals that you were kind of trying to set out to accomplish? Or like, how do you view this year in a nutshell overall, you think?
I would say so. I finally got my album out, so that was one goal. So that was good. And I also wanted to like ramp up on like performing live more. So I definitely had like a lot more like robust lineup of live performances this summer. And yeah, like, I mean, I feel like there is more that I feel like I could have done. But there was a lot of growth growth this year. Like I also mentioned, like I had my listening party, and I just remember when I had my listening event for my EP. It was in the living room of the house that I was living in. It's called The Heart, the House of Healing Arts, a couple years back. And then now I'm having my EP listening, or my album listening party at the Arcade, which is downtown Dayton, as a part of a larger series called After the Levitt. And so I just saw a lot of growth in that, and just like all the people that had came out and showed up and showed out for me. Like it's just a lot of growth in relationships, a lot of growth, and just like my journey as an artist. So yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at for sure.
I think that's another thing, kind of like what we touched on earlier, is like when your head is down and you're putting in the work every day, you don't always look back at like where you've been. And then when you finally get that moment, I feel like for me at least, when it hits the end of the year, it's kind of like the dead period for a lot of like artists and things like that. You're kind of just enjoying the holidays, you're spending time with family, you're doing whatever. You're not really like, you're kind of getting ready for 2023, but a lot of people are kind of just like dormant for a while. I kind of use that as like the reflective time to look back on the year and be like, okay, I did this pretty well. I could work on this a little bit more. But like overall, you still appreciate, you know, what you've been doing, and you see the progress and you're like, okay, that makes me want to go even harder, like moving forward. And that kind of leads me to the next question, which would be, you know, looking into the next year, then 2023, like what do you think is going to be that next step for you to kind of elevate and, you know, accomplish the next set of goals that you have?
Yeah, I want to get into producing my own shows. So that's my next. Yeah, nice. From top to bottom. Mariah curated it with, you know, the help of a team, because I can't do it alone. But I realized after doing so many performances for other venues and other like curators, I'm like, okay, I got a really good idea of the things that I like and the things I don't like when it comes to performing. Now I feel like I kind of want to do this myself. So that's my next goal. And that's where I'm at now. Like I'm actually planning to, you know, host something. I can't say when, because I don't really for sure know when, but definitely trying to host my own show early 2023.
Nice. So. And that's going to be in Dayton then, most likely, I assume?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, definitely wanting to also like travel outside of Dayton as well. I realized that I haven't really had that experience as far as like, you know, performing out of state and performing even out of Dayton. I have before, but it hasn't been very robust. So I want to like elevate that and like travel and go to like, you know, St. Louis, maybe, hopefully, since, you know, I know someone out there now. I want to go to New York. I've always had dreams of like performing in like some small like venue, super intimate, super cozy, and why like so yeah, tapping into like my network, because a lot of my friends are actually in different states, so it's like figuring out, you know, connect with them on another level in that way.
Exactly. And it's one of those things, I think you're going to do it like the first few times, get the hang of it, and the more you do it, it's just going to get easier and easier. It's going to grow even more, and I think that's going to be an incredible opportunity for you. So early congrats on everything you're going to be doing with that. So do you have any final words of wisdom today before we wrap it up?
I actually just posted this on my story, so I'll just share it on here too. Feeling is healing. Healing is feeling. Either way, but yeah, feel your feels, because that's the only way you're going to get through it. Don't run. Don't suppress, just feel it.
Exactly. And once again, Mariah, congrats on the album this year. Congrats on everything you've done and everything you're going to do, because obviously, like I said, I even see what you've been doing through social media and stuff. And I'm just great to, you know, I've known you for a couple of years and just kind of see the growth myself. So I think it's just going to continue to get better and better for you. And obviously, we got to connect in person eventually. Like, we're in the same state. I don't know what I've been doing, but, you know, we're gonna make that happen soon. But we'll definitely do like a part 3 eventually. We'll talk about other ways to, you know, collaborate and things like that. But once again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Anthony, for sure. Thank you for keeping me connected, and I'll be keeping up with you too. Like I said, I'm super proud of you and, you know, the work that you're doing, and your consistency again is like super inspiring.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 132. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you next week for the final episode of the 2022 calendar year. And until then, thanks for listening.